Hello, I'm Robert Clemente. Emma Wooley, with one of her colleagues from Hall and Wilcox, recently presented a webinar on the legal issues that arise when an estate has a connection, either through beneficiaries or assets, with jurisdictions other than Australia. Emma's with me today. Emma, I see that the most recent ABS data show that 49% of Australians were either born overseas or have a parent who was. What are the implications of this for estate planning?
Yeah, Rob, that's right. I mean, the implications are that there's a large swathe of the Australian population who has a connection to another jurisdiction. Like myself, I'm originally from Jersey in the Channel Islands. And the key aspect to understand is that means that necessarily there are other jurisdictions, other legal jurisdictions and other taxing authorities that might have some influence over the decisions that people make around planning during their lifetime, and also how they need to plan for their death, so their estate planning and structuring around that. There's a potential for involvement of even multiple jurisdictions. You might have people that were born in one jurisdiction, may have lived in another jurisdiction for a period and then moved to Australia, leaving behind a trail of a legacy of other jurisdictions to take into account. So we've got to look at individuals and their planning during their lifetime around taxation and extending that on their death. And that might mean looking at, for example, if they were a person that has assets outside of Australia, what are the implications on their death? And it might be that the jurisdiction where those assets are may have a significant impact, for example, in the UK or the US, where they have ongoing inheritance tax laws. Those assets, if they're situated in either the UK or US, are going to be subject to the laws of those home jurisdictions, meaning there might be a tax consequence of the death of the individual, even if they have no other connection to that jurisdiction. So they might have moved, say, from the UK or the US many, many years ago, but still have a connection through either a citizenship or an asset being in that jurisdiction, which brings that other legal system into play. Ignoring it is not a good idea. We're living in a time when there's greater asset and data sharing across jurisdictions, so it's no longer really a sensible thing to do. But absolutely, we need to make sure that we encourage people to have a look at these issues and take proper advice in the correct jurisdiction to ensure that there isn't an inadvertent or adverse tax outcome. It might be that there's lots of opportunity to plan around potential tax or inheritance tax in other jurisdictions. And failing to have a look means you fail to plan, and the legacy will then be issues in the hands of the people that survived those that didn't plan around these issues. Outside of that, there's also the impact and the potential impact that there might be where you leave assets in your will to people that aren't domiciled or resident in Australia. And that can have a different tax outcome than where you leave assets to people who are resident here for tax purposes. And there is other opportunities to plan to make sure that that's somehow either evened up or managed. But if we don't look at it and we don't understand that, and it's really important that we keep it up to date. So we need to keep reviewing the plans over time because populations move. We've got, as you said, Rob, ABS statistics, which shows us that we've now got this level of population. Just a few years ago, our the highest number of people that had been who live in Australia that were born outside of Australia was the UK, and that's around 900,000 people. But we've now got nearly 700,000 or just over 700,000 people that were born in India and have moved to Australia. So things change over time. We've got moving population, people change jurisdictions. And so it's really important to keep things up to date, as well as making sure you take that initial step, getting the right advice in the right jurisdiction.
Emma, thank you very much. That was very informative. And if you want to know more about this, you can actually access the recorded version of Emma's webinar by visiting our website. In the meantime, thank you very much for listening.